Come scout with me, my son, and Scout Theory in our woods. We're going to show you what we scout and how we scout using Scout Theory. Let's go. First thing I look for, areas like this are an absolute gem because they preserve the evidence of any deer crossing through. You've got to stop, slow down for a minute, and just look. It's easy to blow past this stuff, but anytime you see mud, kind of a muddy little creek bottom like this, it's perfect. So right here, we got a fresh deer track. Here we got a little raccoon track. Nice deer print right there. Now, if you can zoom out a little bit and look all around, not a ton of deer activity, ton of deer footprints. We had a lot of rain last night. So this is going to get marked in Scout Theory as a deer track. We're not going to mark it as a corridor just because we're not sure how frequently they're using it. But what we're going to do is continue along this creek bottom looking for more sign. So to mark it in the app, we're going to place scout pin. You can do tap to place if you're at home and not in the field, but you know where you want to drop a pin. Here we're going to use my location, label, single set of deer tracks. Type, go right to track/trail. Today's date automatically enters and save. There we go. Now it's preserved in the system. We're going to travel down this, see if we can't find an area with a little heavier crossing and more action. Who knows? But let's go. All right, so travel a little ways. Not a ton of activity yet, but I just want to show you this print. I don't know if you can see it on there. Starts here, ends about here. So, good sized deer. Love to get him on camera, see what he looks like, but just exciting. Figured I'd share it with you guys. You know, here we go. Got some more action here. So, seeing a good bit of activity. So, we're gonna keep looking and see what else we find. Okay, so we've walked a little bit further, and this is a perfect example of how confusing it can be to read signs. We got that nice single deer track over there that we saw, and then as we look around, we see kind of random deer tracks here. There's probably 10 of them that we can see. Not a consistent directionality to any of them though, and so when I'm scouting, you're trying to identify. What we know is for sure is that a deer was here. What we don't know is how many deer were here. If they were wildly different track sizes, that would help us, but they're kind of similar. So was the deer standing here, eating, grazing, and was it a single deer and a one-off? So that's going to prevent me from marking this as a corridor still. I'm going to go ahead and mark the track. There's no point in dropping a pin for every single track. This is telling the model that yes, there was a deer here. We don't know when, we don't know why. We can assume that it was feeding. We can see some areas where the moss is ripped up, but this really comes down to, in Scout Theory, how you tell the model what you're seeing. And I'm going to call this one still just single deer track, not enough conclusive evidence to mark it as a corridor. All right, so we are out in the woods. We followed one of the field plan tasks, which was to scout the northern boundary for suspected bedding area based on camera movement. What we've done is we're in the field plan, scout northern property. We go to show on map. We get this blinking orange mark. That's where we want to be. This is where we are. That suspected bedding area, it's about 50 yards off, but I'll take that for Scout Theory because we're definitely at a very heavily used bedding area. Makes sense with the topography of where we're at. It's relatively flat. Here, we've got a little bit of a depression. Here will be naturally covered. And I'm confident it's a bedding area because look at this. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 8 piles of, 9, pretty fresh deer poop that we can see. So, this is a perfect example of scout theory when you're following the field plan. It was 50 yards off. You're gonna have to scout. Scout theory is never a guarantee. It's never that silver bullet, but it's pretty good at getting you close. Here, we just had to walk around. Look at the terrain. Look at the topography. It's not gonna be perfect. It's gonna be close. It's up to you to dial it in. Super excited about this spot. I've walked past it probably 100 times. And I'm a newer hunter. I've really been hunting hard for about, it's probably my 4th year, when the addiction really set in. I'm still learning. I had no idea what a bedding area looked like. You hear bed, you think mattresses and sheets. You're not gonna see that. You're gonna see woods. It's up to you to figure out what the deer are looking for in a bedding area. Does it give them good visibility all around? Do they have a good escape route? Are they concealed? But have that visibility into what or who is approaching them. Are the thermals in their favor? Are the winds in their favor? There's so many factors that go into it. And for a new hunter, that can be overwhelming. That's one of the nice things about scout theory is it helps you identify and figure out what those bedding areas are. And then you'll start to recognize them naturally. So I'm gonna go ahead, update the field plan. I'm going to mark it complete, and I'm going to mark this area as the bedding area on my map. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually move a game camera over here. I've got a game camera that triggered Scout Theory to point us in this direction. I'm going to move it probably 100 yards and see if we can't capture on bedding down in here. And once we do that and get some activity on it, I'll be sure to upload the images and videos to our social media channel. So let's keep going as we scout through the woods. All right, on our scouting trip, just came up on this really nice little find here. We had a storm come through last night and knock all these young green acorns on the ground here. Look at my hand. So these are early, but they're dropping. And what that tells us is that the oak tree around here has a bunch of acorns on it that are going to be ready to drop this fall. Hopefully we don't keep having storms and they knock them all down before they're ready. But I'm going to go ahead and mark this tree as a point of interest, as a food source. The food source is going to change and dry up. But I know to keep an eye on it so that when the acorns are ready, I'm going to be out here. I've got a tree probably 20 yards that way that I've set up in before. I'll put my saddle set up right there. I just need to clear a couple branches. It's another huge part of scouting. You can see those saplings have grown in. If these acorns continue to drop, I want a nice clear shooting lane from my bow to this area. So I actually think I just heard a deer.
I think I heard that too. Like that way. Right?
Your ears are better than mine, but it'd be awesome if we saw a deer right now while we're doing this. I'm gonna get my limbs out, clear this shooting lane now, so that I'm not doing it, 6 weeks from now when I'm all geared up and sweating, trying not to break a sweat getting into my saddle. So I'm gonna clear that and then we'll keep scouting. All right, I was not planning on talking about deer poop so much today during this video, but when you're out in the woods, you just kind of have to roll with it. And this is a really good opportunity to discuss scouting and how to interpret sign. So here we are. We slope probably 15 feet from my left to my right, back down to that creek bottom we were following earlier. Although now we're probably 400 yards away from where we started. Here, we're on the middle of a hill, if you can call it that, middle of a slope. Pretty open, no real good cover, but here we've got, I think, 4 different piles of deer poop. It's older for sure. Nothing super fresh. Here we've definitely got some fresher, if you want to come over here, that fresher, deer poop that we'd expect to see this time of year when The feed is super rich. You know, we've just got deer poop. Gonna over here. I can't right now.
You're
Everything's blends
stepping
in.
on it.
Oh, yep. Okay, so deer poop. What does this tell us? Honestly, I don't know. Like I said, I don't claim to be a master hunter or scouter. But what this does is this gets my brain working. I'm out here and saying, okay, deer come through here. Maybe this is just a travel corridor that they use. There's a hayfield probably a half a mile away. Maybe that's the hayfield they head to feed at night, and they're just using this travel route. Maybe they bed down here because we're halfway on the hill, so they could see up over the top of the hill. But the lack of any real cover overhead or down on the ground makes me think not. So I could put a game camera here to figure it out. I'm definitely going to mark it on Scout Theory, and we're going to just keep thinking about this. And you know, this goes into the entire journey and education of hunting and becoming a better hunter. I don't have all the answers, but I am able to look at the ground, see some evidence, and begin to figure it out. There's somebody that's probably been hunting, you know, 10 times as long as me, tell you exactly what deer use this for. It's all a journey. Everybody has a different hunt. Hunt your hunt, scout your scout. Scout Theory is here to at least help you connect the dots. So let's keep moving. All right, so we're probably 10 feet to the left of where we just saw that deer poop. And as I was logging it, cameraman and my son Max pointed out that there was a rub from last season immediately to our left. So one of the things I struggle with is sometimes identifying, is it porcupine action or is it a rub from a deer? What I use to determine it is a couple of different things. How aggressively the tree has been hit, but more so a porcupine will chew all the way through the outer and inner layers of the bark, where a rub will go through various layers. So you'll see it go from outer to inner all the way into the hardwood. And here we've got a spot, I don't know how well you can see that, that indicates, you know, a deer coming in, getting its antlers in there, rubbing, hitting up here and doing some damage, where with a porcupine you usually see more complete destruction of the bark all the way to a consistent layer and more consistency on the tree itself. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this one in Scout Theory as a rub, and note that it appears to be from the 2025 deer season, and we'll keep our eyes on it as we get closer to the rut here. So let's keep moving. All right, so I think I can hear some deer around us. So we're gonna talk kind of quiet right now. Oh yeah. So we had started filming because there's a black walnut tree here, but there's a deer probably 60, 70 yards in front of us. We're gonna try and see if we can see it, and then we'll come back to here. Okay, so tried stalking and following that deer for a little bit, see if we could get it on camera for you guys, but it gets wicked thick fast back here, which is why they love this. Last season when I was out hunting here, I sat and watched two deer that were bedded down for about an hour. I totally come up on by surprise. It was the most anguishing hour of my hunt, because I was not very comfortable trying to hide behind a tree, so I didn't spook them. So this area has tons of deer activity. There's deer poop all over the ground, and you can see why if you follow me.
transitions from woodland, where we, say for example, have that black walnut tree, to this really marshy, wet, but super nutrient dense area. As soon as the snow was gone, I had them in here on camera, eating the different mosses that were growing, and then it's just green and full of, it's like a buffet for them. So not surprising that they hang around here. Just natural cover, little changes in the contours of the land. So hopefully we see that deer or another one. We've also had a ton of black bear on camera this year, so that's one that we don't really want to see right now because there's a mother with 2 cubs hanging around here. So we're gonna keep our ears open and our eyes wide. So I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but here's a perfect example of the bear footprint coming through here.
It's almost as big as your hand.
Yes. So I'll try to remember to post some photos of that bear that I've had on camera, just because they're always fun to look at. Beautiful creatures, but again, better viewed on camera than in person, unless you're hunting. All right, so here we've got young hemlock. Appears to have been hit pretty hard last season during the rut. So really good rub action. And again, the difference between how you know if it's porcupine or a rub is you've got this singular little branch here that was hit and damaged, right? Then here, so you got to kind of, at least I visualize what the rack is going to look like as the deer's working the tree. Oh, perfect. I'll be right there. Here you've got shredded bark, right? So where the porcupine would eat this stuff, you've just got it shredded. And again, those different layers of the bark where it's not stripped down clean. Here we've got an older one from a season or 2 ago. Definitely not last season. Broken branch, indicative of being worked as a rub. And there was one other. Who was it? Oh, right here. So we've got a rub right here. So again, you got some damage here, damage down here. So we're gonna go ahead and mark this in the app, drop a scout pin, flag it as rubs from last season. All right, so that wraps up this scouting trip. Swapped out the last battery on the game camera that we needed to. Absolute success today out in the woods. Tons of deer sign. We were finding deer scat everywhere we looked. Fresh piles. Found a black walnut tree we didn't know existed out here. Moved the camera over to there. Really excited to see what's feeding on that. Found fresh rubs from last season that we hadn't seen before, so we got those marked. Saw a deer from a distance take off. Tried to get closer for you guys so we could see it. Fortunately, we weren't able to get close enough, but you know, all in all, just a perfect day in the woods. Got to spend, you know, a couple hours out here with my son Max, who's also the cameraman, doing an awesome job. And this is the first of many videos we're going to do, just showing you how we scout. It's not necessarily the right way, the perfect way, but it's the best we can do. It's what we know, and it's how I do it. Always happy to hear feedback, things I missed, things I overlooked, how you might do something differently. The important thing for us and for Scout Theory is that we got all this information into the app. So we're continuing that feedback loop of just reinforcing the knowledge that we have, reinforcing the knowledge that's saved in the model. So absolutely great day out here. Please be sure to download Scout Theory. You can use it right online if you want, scouttheory.app. And like we say, you know, learn more, think deeper, and hunt smarter.